How's it going, guys? Apple here today. This is the 10th part of my new series, learning how to code in C++. Today we're going to be talking about switch statements. All really switch statements really are is it's kind of like if else if statements, but require pretty much less code to actually make it. Right now I have a pretty much an empty project for us to actually make a switch statement in it. Now switch statements are really good for like random number generators to configure it to a certain executable process, and really that's pretty much it. It's good for that, and you could use that for a lot of things. So what we're going to be doing, the first thing we really need for a switch operator is actually the word switch. So I'm going to put switch, and before that we actually have to have a little thing like choice. But before we actually have choice, we gotta have a int. Well, I'm gonna be using an int for choice. So right here, and then I'm gonna end it out with a semicolon. So what we're gonna actually have for this switch statement is we're gonna be using cases. Now all cases it is basically if and else if statements. You can think of it that way, but it's a lot more of a cleaner code to actually do. So we do case, and then for our first case it's going to be 0. You could change this number whenever you want, and then we're going to actually, right here is our executable code, and right here is our executable code. I completely forgot it is the double dots, a colon, really, and then let's say cout, print out 0 as our option. And then the next step for this case is we need a break. And this is mainly because the reason why we have that break right there is so if we have multiple cases, it doesn't run through all of them if one is true. That's why we do really need that break. So it's making another case. I'm going to basically making like 4 or 5 cases. So what I'm going to do is just pretty much copy and paste this. So right now I've made 5 cases. I'm going to change all the numbers to really what it really should be. Of course, I'm going to be doing this right here. So right now we actually have 5 cases. What we have to actually add as a default at the end, kind of like a if else if statements, it has that else statement to catch like errors or whatever. For that, we just put default, and this is just basically anything that is not equivalent to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to put down cout number to high, and then for it we're going to put a break to end it. So right now we actually have our switch statement ready to be processed, but there's one thing. Since our choice is 0, basically mainly because it is equivalent to nothing, it's going to print out 0. That is what it should do in theory. As we can see there, it prints out 0. But let's say our choice actually has a number, and you can make this any name you want it to be, as long as it's both the same. Let's do 52. And we execute it, we're gonna get a default. We're gonna get the default, and it says number too high. But let's say, hey, I want it to be 2. And then we're gonna go ahead and it's gonna print out 2, just like that. Now you might be thinking, oh wait, so that means if I want to add logic operators or rational operators, and that's really it on making switch statements. If you really want to look towards if you really want like an example of a random number generator, tomorrow I'll be uploading a second part, or you could even see my first part. Basically I kind of made it a random number generator, but I did use it a if else if statement, mainly because it was going to be a little bit too much for a switch statement. So pretty much with switch statements you can't really use rational operators that really I kind of know of. So I really recommend, if you really want to use rational operators or logical operators into your program, I recommend just using if and else if statements. It looks a little bit more cleaner than switch statements, but pretty much I would say that's pretty much the best way to actually go through it. Switch statements are really good for rolling down numbers, for loops and stuff like that, but of course for rational numbers or logical operators, it's not really the best option. I guess you could in theory, yeah, but I would say it's really not even worth your time to actually do. If you are looking for some code, as I mentioned in the video, that you can make a random number generator, I have a code on my GitHub. I have a link of it in the description. Basically, it is a magic number generator that I made a long time ago. And basically all it really does is just looks for a random number, and if it hits that number, it will execute a command for that number. And I hope you guys actually learned something a little bit more about C++. In the next episode, I'm going to be talking about while loops, a little bit more complex coding, but pretty much we're going to go through the loops in the next week. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you guys in the next time.